Hello, welcome to MS's Great channel. In this video, we are going to see how to connect Azure DevOps from PowerApps using the custom connector to get the work items list. So you can see here, this is a sample of the application which is built just with the UI. We're going to populate the list of projects, and based on the project selected, you can get all the work items by clicking on this button and listed down all the work item IDs and the URL of the work item here in the gallery. So this time we're going to use the custom connectors, and I have already published one of the video. You can see here, this is one of the video. This is kind of part one where you can parse your Azure DevOps with the PowerApps using the existing connector which are already been published by Microsoft. But here we are going to create our own custom connector and connect it to Azure DevOps. Let's start doing it. So to do a custom connector connecting to the Azure DevOps, these are the prerequisites which we need for the connection. First one, you need, that is a mandatory, you need to have a Azure DevOps setup with the project, minimum one project, and you need to create a token where you need to, is like a key with the value. You need to generate one with the scope of the scope of the Azure DevOps or the projects you are getting the value from. So here we are going to get only the work items, so probably the scope would be just limited to the work items only. And we need to make use of the basic authentication to get the to invoke the REST API and pass the key. And finally, we need a JSON schema generator to convert the return value of the JSON to a JSON schema. This is my Azure DevOps. As you can see here, I have two projects, and I'm going to get the work items from this project or based on the selection. First step, you need to generate a key. To generate a key, you can go into the settings and click on the personal access token, and here you can generate a key using a new token. You can see already I have one of the token just for testing, and I have added few of the scopes. So let's go ahead and create a token. To create a token, you need a name. Probably I can just add a name, sample, and this is the organization. You can select which organization you want and the expiry of the key, and either you can give a full access, meaning that it can do anything with the basic authentication connected to the custom connector, or you can enable one by one. So we need minimum work item read, and there are few more scopes we can see here, but I'm not going to create, so I will just use just the work items read. So this work items read will be used. So you can see here there are the new key which I have generated is already been shown here. There are two active keys, and I'll be copying this key to make use of it. So the next prerequisite is that you need to either you can invoke this using Postman and then check the REST API whether it is working with the key, or you can directly start creating the custom connector. So but in my case, I will just use the Postman to check invoking the REST API and then try out one output. So basically this is the REST API. I am going to use it. This is the WIQL, which is like query by the ID, and you can see here this is the URL. You can just apply these parameters, organization, project, and the query ID, given that it returns you this JSON format. Basically this JSON, you can see here, it returns ID as well as the URL of the work item. So we're going to make use of this and create a custom connector for it. Let me invoke this by the Postman and try to use the ID. Okay, let's use the Postman. This is the Postman which I am using in. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to copy the URL from the operations here. So get by ID. Let me get the APIs with the ID. Copy this and then change the URL. So basically the organization, you need to change it to St. Tamil, and the project you need to change it to the original project, which is Power Platform. And you don't really need the team, you can explicitly remove the team, APIs, and the ID. So for the query ID, you should go back to the Azure DevOps, open the project and navigate to your queries. So basically you should go to the work items and the queries, board, log, and the queries. What I'm going to get is that I'm going to get all the work items. So all work items, to get the query ID, you can use this URL and copy this ID and go back to the Postman and just use the ID to, okay, so this is the ID. Basically this is the URL to get method. So make sure that you are in the get method, and the next thing you should do is that use the authorization. Here in the DevOps we have created a key, so make sure that you copied the key while you create, and authentication you set it to basic auth. So once you set the basic auth, it would have the basic and the key which you want to copy it here. You can copy the key here. So paste your key which is generated during the token. Basically it is a token, so you just paste it here. Okay, and now you can test your operations. So hopefully it would give you the value. Yeah, you can see here it has successfully invoked the operation, and you can see all the items have been given. Okay, it has all the items, work items, with the URL. So right now the key is working and we have the URL. Let's start creating a custom connector. Let's go back to the PowerApps and let me open one more PowerApps window. Now we are going to create a custom connector. Go to the custom connectors and you can see the list of connectors, and you need to create a new custom connector from the blank. Give it a name, maybe custom Azure DevOps. Create the custom connector. Icon and the things are mandatory, and descriptions you can add some description like invoke Azure DevOps REST API with the custom work items. And here you need to specify dev.azure.com, that is the base URL, and the base URL mentioned as /dev.azure.com. that's it. And next phase, once the URL is given, navigate to the security. So here you need to specify the basic authentication and let it be the username and the password. Okay, and you can have the same username and password. We are not giving any default password, so don't specify any basic password and the key here. So don't supply any of the username and the password here, because this is to be supplied when you create a connection. Next we go to the definition. So definition, basically the ID, the API which we want to do. So we create an action, operation ID, we just give a query ID. I'm going to get all the queries and all the work item IDs. The request, it is a get request, and you go back to the learn.microsoft.com, copy this, make sure that you copy the full, and go back to the connector, paste it here, and you can remove just the team alone, because you can get the value without even specifying the team. And make sure that header also you need to specify this value, accept application slash JSON. So just type accept space, let me remove this, accept space application slash JSON. Okay, so make sure that everything is correct and then import. So once you import, you would see that there is an ID here, as well as these parameters which are automatically picked up in here. So organization, project, and the ID. So all these are picked up automatically here. Also the API and the accept header. So here you can specify the API version to be kind of default, so that every time you don't really need to specify the value. So I'm going to say this value is default. Is it required? No. Then just it's a string, then I have a default value. Go back. Also the header, you can always say application slash JSON, so that every time when someone requests for the value, you don't really need to, they can just skip. Accept, make sure that it is there fine, and then go back. Okay, so now the get methods are all perfect, seems to be working. These are all the parameters you should pass. So now come back to the response. This response is a bit trickier. You click here, default response, import from the sample. So we don't need to specify the header but the body. So the body response here, we need a JSON schema. That's when you need to have a JSON generator. So what you need to do is that you go back to your Postman which you used it, copy the full response, and then navigate to this website, jsongenerator.io. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to just paste here and see here, this is the sample, and I'm going to generate that one. So now you got the JSON schema here. So what you can do is that copy the schema and you open a Visual Studio editor and paste the schema here. So once you paste the schema here, you need to slightly modify few of the parameters. Remove the schema first, the first line, and look for all the required attribute and just remove the required attribute. So remove here, and items required, so you don't need this required. Okay, and then required. Items required. So let me remove this and the last one. Okay, so why I'm removing the required? Because these REST APIs are sometimes dynamic. If you specify required in few of the parameters or the properties, sometime your invocation might fail. Not all times, but sometime it required, sometime it fails. So copy this JSON schema and you go back to the custom connector. So either you can paste the schema here, that would take here. So in my case, what usually I do is that I go back to the Swagger editor, and you can see here there is a response and default, and in the response default it is empty for now because I have not specified any of the response, and the description is again default, and there is a schema here. So we need to paste the response schema here. Okay, so remove the schema here and you need to paste the schema inside here. So once you paste the schema, it will automatically convert it into the YAML. So you can see here, and it will convert it into schema. So make sure all the indentation is correct and everything is fine. So the description, right now it says description is empty. Okay, you can even specify your own schema. I'll have to specify it here. Okay, yeah. Okay, structural value. So make sure the structure is correct, or else you will get every error. You need to fix those error. Description, let me specify the description as default, and type object, schema. Okay, something has gone wrong. Let me just do this. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. So make sure that you paste it properly. So in my case, I copied this description. That's why it gave me some error. So you don't need the description also. You can straight away jump into the type object. So copy from the type object and make sure you include this bracket also. So when you copy, probably you can even remove this and then start from here. Okay. If you paste it here, most of the time it works out. Then everything is fine. Make sure that everything is good, and then create a connector. Okay. So we should start creating a connector. There are two errors in the security tab. Let's go back. What does it says? Parameter name is still username. What is that? It cannot be empty or white space. So maybe we just say username. Password is password. Okay. So it is a label. So make sure that, as I mentioned before, don't supply the original value or the key here. It is not the original value, it is just a label. So it is a mandatory label. You just specify the same as the parameter name, should be okay. So now let's create the connector. It takes a while to create a connector. You can see here it is successfully created the connector. Now we need to test the connector. To test the connector, you need to create a connection. So let me create a connection. Okay, so now when you create a connection, you can see here this is our custom connector name. Here this is the label which we have provided, and this is the password. So now this is the place where you need to copy your key. So here you can, this is the default. You need to specify as basic. Don't change it because it will not work. You can see here in the Postman also we have specified as a basic, so it's a case sensitive as well. So make sure you specify it as basic, case sensitive, and here you can paste your key here. Okay, I pasted my key, and you can create the connection. So once it creates a connection, not now. Okay, I have created a connection. Go back to the custom connectors. You would see the custom Azure DevOps. I need to test custom Azure DevOps, and then edit and directly test it. So organization I know, Santamir, and then project I know, Power Platform. So ID I need to copy from the Azure DevOps. Copy from here. Use, this is the query ID. So copy from the URL and paste it here. And now you can see here API version and the accept. These two are default parameter. So it should get the value. So now I am just testing. Hopefully it works. Yeah, you can see here you get the value, the field, and then we are more interested in the work items. So you can see the work items. So you have the ID and the URL. Okay, so now the custom connector is working. I'm just clicking on the update connector in case anything is there. Then it will take a while to update the connector. Now we can go back to the PowerApps which have created and add the connector. Okay, successfully it has saved. Now go back to the app. This is the app which I have created, So let me refresh it. Okay, you can see here it's just a skeleton, there is no code here. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to fill in this combo with the projects. So for that I need to add the data here. Let's add first the original DevOps. Okay, so this is the Azure DevOps which you can see here. I'm going to add the original Azure DevOps. See, the original Azure DevOps we are adding to get only the projects. Okay, this is the connector from the Microsoft, not the custom connector which you have created. It is just to get the projects. So Azure DevOps, let me go to the add. So on start. Okay, so here in on start what we're going to do is that we're going to get the list of all projects. Clear collect. I'm going to say project collection comma item, so meaning Azure DevOps dot list projects of the account. So it takes an account, so in this case this account is Senthamil, and then dot value. Okay, save this and execute this, run on start. So let it finish saving. Okay, it is executed. So now if you see the project collection, you have 2 projects. Okay, that's fine. So what I'm going to do is that I go back to the and then on items I'm just going to say project collections. Okay, done. So there are 2 items here. That first is done. So now we need to add a code when I click on this button to get the values. So for that what I'm going to do is that I'm going to do another same clear collect of let me declare work item IDs. Okay, work item ID is the collection name, and now we need a custom connector option. So go back to the data here. So now you should add our custom connector. So custom Azure DevOps. You can see here this is the new connector which we created, and I'm going to add that. So the moment I add in, it uses the existing connection which we created during the test, and the username and the password is already been supplied there. So it make use of that. So now I'm going to use the custom connector DevOps dot. We have only one method, and the method takes organization name that we're going to hard code it. And the project, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to get it from the control dot selected dot name. Okay, yeah, project ID, again I'm going to hard code it. Let me take the ID from here. This is the query ID. You need to specify in your parameter, and okay, so I'm going to get only the work item. So see here, the moment I call this method, it knows that it has all these properties within the return value in the response, because the response we have completely specified the schema. So in our schema we have specified this, and we need only the work items. Okay, and I'm going to close this. So now let me save this. And the work items are here, and I'm going to do one more set. Okay, So now what I'm doing is that I'm going to, okay, this is wrong, I should use this. Okay, I'm converting this work item collection into the JSON and setting into one of the variable JSON text, and this JSON text is linked to my HTML control. So I have one HTML control here. This is the HTML text control, HTML text one. You can see here this is the HTML text control, and in the HTML text I link this JSON text which is converted from the JSON text here. Why? Because I want to see the value from the collection. Okay, let's execute this. Power Platform, you can see here, click on that. Okay, you can see here the value is here. So value ID, value ID, value ID, and then the URL. So basically, if you copy this, let me copy this. Okay, we're going to copy this and paste it into our Visual Studio. And make sure it is JSON. What is the type of the file? And F1 format. Okay, you can see here, if I convert that return value collection, you see there is a value tag, and inside a value you have ID and the URL. So meaning that it again gives us an untyped value. So again you'll have to pass this untyped value. So let me go back to the button here, and then if you double click on the work items, you would see untyped value. So even though if you use a custom connector and you supply your schema, it's still the untyped value. You'll have to convert that untyped into a typed value. So how do you do it? We want to link it to the control. So for that we need to convert that into a typed value. To convert that into a typed value, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use in the previous example, same as here. Okay, so work item IDs. Okay, this is the code. So basically what I'm doing is that I'm creating one more collection, which is the parsed collection, and in the parsed collection I'm going to loop through all the work item IDs, which is for all, and I'm creating my own type, which is in this current record we are having it in value.id. So if you see here, you have it in a value.id, and it is a integer value. So I'm converting that into a value. So meaning it will convert it into a value and I'm checking whether the URL property is existed. So is blank and error checks whether that URL property really exists in that return value. If it exists, it will get the value from the URL. So again you have to use this, and it is a text value, so I'm converting that into a text or typecasting into text. If that property doesn't exist, it will return blank. Okay, so that's it. Save it, and I'm going to link this here in a passed value. This is the gallery, I passed collection, and there are two items here. I linked ID and the URL. Let's execute this. Power Platform, all work item. Okay, see here, it's nice. So all the values have been executed. It gets the ID and the URL, and this is the sample. You see the raw JSON file. So this is how you should use the custom connector with the Azure DevOps. Make sure that the key difference is that you need to use the basic authentication, and again you have to still use the typed value. So it comes as untyped, and you need to convert that into a typed collection. Okay, so hope this is really helpful. Subscribe and like.